From my blended stat of 4 advanced metrics, Bo Nix is a tier 3 out of 5 tiers quarterback. And as you could probably imagine, Josh Allen is a tier 1 quarterback. In Nix's defense, though, he's at the highest point of a tier 3 quarterback, roughly. So he is still right about average, which, if he played the way he did in the second half for the entire year, he would have been a tier 2 quarterback for sure. But I like to look at things holistically and say that every game matters. So, with that said, he is a tier 3 quarterback. So, there is a pretty big advantage for the Bills to start out. And shifting now to Denver's wide receivers, though, Marvin Mims is a surprisingly high 5th in yards per route run, and he's going against the generally elite Christian Benford, who is 4th in PFF coverage grade. He is not really much of a man coverage corner. He plays a very low 22% of his snaps in man coverage. The average is about 26%. He's good when he does it, though. So if there are times like 3rd and 4th downs where you need to play tight coverage to get off the field and not allow a, say, like 3-yard gain, then Benford will really stand a chance against Mims or Sutton as well, depending on the matchup. And with that said, I don't give an advantage to either side here because I think that Benford is the better player, but I don't know if it's by enough to say definitively based on a statistical view of things that Benford is superior. So I consider this a draw. The next advantage, though, does go to Denver because Courtland Sutton is 41st in yards per route run, and he's going against Rasul Douglas, who's had a down year this season. He was really good last year and has been really good throughout his career as well. But Douglas is 81st in PFF coverage grade. He only plays man coverage about 20% of the time, which is obviously very low because I discussed that Benford at 22% was low. And with that said, Douglas is horrible in man coverage the times he does play it. He has a 29 PFF coverage grade in man coverage, so he would not be trustworthy in man situations at all. And for those reasons, the advantage goes to the Broncos and Sutton. The next advantage is between the ground game of Denver versus the run defense of Buffalo, where Denver is, they're a little bit surprising to me as only being 17th in rushing expected points added. But what's not too surprising to me is that Buffalo is very good in defending the run, as they are 5th in run defense expected points added. So that is a mismatch, and that takes us to 2 advantages for Buffalo and 1 for Denver. But Denver is going to make some hay in this upcoming stat as a little bit of a preview. Zach Allen is 5th in pressures versus David Andrews at, I almost said center. No, he's a guard, who is 41st in pass blocking out of all guards. And Connor McGovern is 9th out of all centers in pass protection, according to PFF. So I consider this to be a draw. The only reason is because McGovern is close to Allen, and Edwards is not bad. He's not where you want to be. You'd rather be number 1, but you'd also rather be, if you had to reasonably pick, say like in the 30s, that's about where you're going to be average. So Edwards is a little bit maybe below average, but not tremendously so. So you add those two together, I think they're good enough to protect against Zach Allen. And with that said, there are some advantages for Denver, though. John Franklin Myers is 31st in pressures amongst all players, and he's going against Osiris Torrance, who's 47th. So Franklin Myers is a really good pass rusher. I mean, Zach Allen is phenomenal, being 5th amongst all players in pressures. I kind of glossed over that, just how good that is, but it's incredible. And John Franklin Myers is also really good at 31st amongst all players. So they have a really good interior pass rush. And Torrance just is not up for the job, I don't think. He is a little bit below average, and I would say like solidly below average, in fact. And Franklin Myers is just a stellar pass rusher in his own right. The next advantage so that takes us to 2-2. And the next advantage is for Denver as well, as Jonathan Cooper is 15th in pressures amongst all players versus Spencer Brown, who's 26th in pass blocking grade. That is another advantage for Denver, taking it to 3 for Denver, believe it or not, and 2 for Buffalo. Cooper is a very good pressure getter in his own right. He doesn't get talked about, I don't think, as much as he probably should, because most people are aware that Zach Allen's having an awesome year. He is. And also, people are seeing that Nick Bonito is really getting after the quarterback also. And he also is. But Cooper actually has more pressures than Bonito. So, with that said, I think that Cooper is really good in his own right and is going to cause some havoc as well. Maybe not get too many sacks. Maybe the Broncos don't get too many sacks in general because Allen gets rid of the ball so quickly and is so elusive. This offensive line is good, but they're going to be getting pressures, and that's the next best thing. Bonito is somebody that doesn't give an advantage to Denver, not just because he's a little bit lower in the pressure getting realm, it's because he's going against a really good offensive tackle as well in Dion Dawkins. Bonito is 21st in pressures amongst all players, and Dawkins is 16th in pass blocking grade. So this is a standstill. It really could go either way. Bonito could get after Dawkins a bit because Bonito is just like lightning in a bottle. But with that said, you have to favor Dawkins a little bit just because he is a little bit statistically better and he is aided by Josh Allen. We shift now to Buffalo's side, but before we do that, if you're enjoying the video, make sure you like and subscribe as we'll be pushing out more football content and eventually NBA content as well. And with that said, we'll start off with the wide receiver portion for Buffalo, where Khalil Shakir is a really good 23rd in yards per route run versus Jaquan McMillan, who's 60th in PFF coverage grade. He plays a lot of man coverage at 33%. Again, the average is 26%, and he's all right at it. So that brings his coverage grade down a little bit below where it should be because man coverage is just harder to do than zone coverage is because you're not aided as much by your teammates. So McMillan is a pretty good cover guy after all, but I'm still giving the edge here to Buffalo to take it to 3-3. The next matchup is the rushing attack of Buffalo versus the run defense for Denver. This is a deadlock as the Bills are 3rd in rushing expected points added, and Denver is 4th and run defense expected points added. So there is just no edge here whatsoever. If I had to pick, I would say that Buffalo's probably going to have a little bit more success than Denver's run defense will, just because Buffalo can be so multifaceted with Josh Allen and James Cook. I almost called him Dalvin Cook. And just the multiple options they get from that alone. And then the sixth offensive lineman being out there sometimes, which is a tricky thing to defend. They have a good play caller as well. So there's a lot that goes into that. But Vance Joseph is a really good defensive coordinator. He has a lot of talent on his hands. It's going to be tight. There's no. I would be so surprised if the Bills just gashed the Broncos on the ground or through the air, really, too, because the Broncos have good pass coverage also. The final team advantage will be for the Bills as well to break the tie of 3-3, so it'll be 4-3, as Greg Rousseau is 12th in pressures amongst all players versus Mike McGlinchey, who is 32nd in pass blocking grade. McGlinchey is not a bad player by any stretch, but he is not up to the task, I don't think, of blocking a great player like Rousseau. And I think that's going to be a pretty big advantage for the Bills, is to get some pressure on this great offensive line. I think Bo Nix is not going to know what is coming his way because he's basically had great protection throughout the entire season. So I think that could be a little bit problematic for the Broncos. I also think the last advantage as a whole is that the Bills have home field advantage, which takes it to 5 advantages to 3. I think that that's going to be a slight edge because they may have a little bit more operational errors in not knowing how to get, prepared before the hike, and they could just have small issues like that for Denver's case as an away team with a young quarterback, but that's not a guarantee. That's just theoretical. With all this said, I do lean the Bills as the victor. I think that not only do they have the more advantages, they have the bigger ones as well, like having the quarterback advantage. I do think home field advantage is one of the bigger advantages you can have, just because it does help the defense a bit and it aids the offense by not being problematic there. So with that said, I do lean the Bills, but I think this is going to be a surprisingly close game. I think most people just assume that it's going to be a blowout. And in my preview video, I did kind of lead people to believe that. But the more I looked at it, the more I was like, this is actually kind of close. And I do definitely think the Bills are going to win. I would be surprised if they lose. But it's not like it's a, guarantee by any stretch. Those are my thoughts on the game. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section. And also be sure to like and subscribe for more football content.